Hey team, welcome back to the show. Today we are talking about why Natalie is so shredded, specifically what getting into some questions listeners had on her peak week. I don't know if it was necessarily a listener Q&A, but you just put out a question box in your story. You are of course in peak week for your first bodybuilding show. We'll get into definitions and things like that in just a moment. But I thought this would be a really cool kind of just casual conversation, just talking through what prep has looked like for you in terms of this peak week specifically, like what it is, what you're doing differently to bring your best look to stage. But then also just kind of what the prep has been like in terms of how you maintain a good mentality, challenges you've ran into, things like that. So I'm excited to get into it. Um, I think the listeners will have a lot of actionable takeaways when it comes to fat loss. Again, you're getting like the most extreme form of shredded. So even if you're not pushing to the same degree, really carries over very well to anyone who's trying to get a good bit leaner, especially if you're trying to kind of get to a next level lean. So let's go ahead and get into it. First, Natalie, can you kind of talk us through what you've been up to and what a peak week is? Like, why are we even here?
What I've been up to, I've been dieting. It's like all I've been up to lately. So I started prep to step on stage for a bodybuilding show. I started May 12th, actually, that week.
Okay.
Um, and prior to that, I started with my coach 2 years ago and said to him, "This is something I'm interested in, I want to do." And he said, "Sure, dude, we can do that." But it has taken, literally said that, but it has taken about 2 years for me to start prep. So the dieting portion of this journey has only been going since May, but that is largely what I've been up to all summer. So just working on getting ready to step on stage, which for my division, which is the figure division, is like essential levels of body fat. So this is pushing a leanness beyond which a lifestyle athlete or client would aspire to. And a couple steps past photo shoot lean, I would say as well.
For sure.
So I am now at the point where this is not sustainable. And I'll probably start making a few more posts on my social media with my photo saying like not sustainable. Because I don't want to misrepresent what this is. This is literally for like one day to step on stage. Um, and it is not because I plan on holding this like for the rest of my life. And we always talk about living lean and maintaining a relatively lean body composition. This is not it.
I think that the sustainability piece is very important to iterate. It's not like I think people are sometimes so scared of letting go of like being their most shredded. That's not really what we do this for. It's just fun to push your physique to a new level, but we'll have to go into it with the understanding that like to this degree, we're not going to be able to sustain it. And I also think the point you made about building for 2 years prior to this is super important, right? Like, I mean, I'm don't know if I'm ever going to be as jacked as you, but let alone like us, like if we just like start coaching diet for 6 months or 4 months because Natalie's dieted for 4 months, we're not going to be anywhere close to her physique. For everyone, most people, it'll probably take a lot longer than 2 years of building to get to the amount of muscle tissue you have, regardless. But I think that like the amount of time you put into this is so important, not dieting, when people see the end result.
And I keep saying 2 years because that's when I officially started with my coach. But it's been three, really, since like the last time I did my photo shoot prep with you was 3 years ago. So
Right.
like I haven't seriously dieted for 3 years.
Right. And I think that's
Between
super important.
Yes, between then and now, so 2022 to right now, 2025, I did like a little 9 week cleanup phase last fall with my current coach, where I dropped like 9 or 10 pounds or something. And it was very like I think it was like 9 weeks or so. It was really like a drop in the bucket. So I feel like broad strokes, I can honestly say like I haven't really dieted for like 9 years. I'm sorry, 3 years. 3 years. It was 9 weeks.
Seems like 9 years.
It does feel like 9 years, but all of that time since, coming out of photo shoot prep, like I did a health phase, and like at some point in the last couple years there was a gut health phase. So it's not like, it was just this linear journey. But prior to that, like all the years spent like doing CrossFit and like lifting weights and everything. So it's not like I just kind of stepped into the gym 2 years ago and started building muscle. Like that's also incorrect. And I think like some of the iterations of my physique, it's easy to kind of like look at that and like just kind of like cherry pick one and be like, oh, like this is a big transformation. It's like, no, it's just like one of the phases that my body like worked through. Like it was just a pit stop on the way.
Yeah, even when we started coaching together, you weren't nearly as jacked as you are now, but you had a lot more muscle mass than most new clients have. And you weren't even like crazy obsessive with hypertrophy training yet. Pretty crazy how quickly that did progress. But I don't know why it's so funny to me to think about when we first started coaching together and you were like kind of working out at a CrossFit gym and then kind of working out at Planet Fitness. And then you just so quickly were like obsessed with DMV iron and got just so deep down the rabbit hole so quickly. But I know that is very much your personality. So to bring it back to peak week, what is a peak week? Just define that for the listeners.
So peak week is the week lead up into your show, or we could say photo shoot as well. But it is that like lead in to the event, you stepping on stage, you having a photo shoot or whatever. And it is everything that happens during peak week is with the express purpose of you bringing your best on that day. So literally peaking your physique. So that's kind of like the cool part about this whole process is that, there have been like so many changes to the physique and the body and you look shredded, you look flat, you look spilled, your body goes through so many changes, but that whole time you're learning, you're collecting data that you can use during your peak week to tee up your best look ever, basically. So everything that's done, and then it essentially at that point it looks different for everyone. And I guess I would generalize it as peak week is whatever it is you need to do to bring your best. So for some people, that might look like we need to keep pushing fat loss.
Mhm.
Like we're not there yet. We just kind of got to keep pushing it out. And then for others, it's usually more a matter of, okay, this is the point where we start pulling things back to rest the body, like wash off some fatigue, and kind of, yeah, get your body ready to perform.
Love it. So just peaking, basically peaking in our look for a specific day, even a specific time. In your case, talk us through your peak week protocol, kind of what's different and why, because I know you said there could be different applications depending on where the client's at.
Yeah, for me, now it is Tuesday as we sit here and record this, and my show is on Saturday. So I'm a couple days in here. So I actually don't know what the rest of the week is going to look like. I am at the point now where I check in every day with my coach and we kind of ad hoc it from there,
Okay.
So we have because we've been together a while at this point and we've been dieting for a few months now. So we have a lot of things in place already, like my baseline diet, my food sources, my meal plan. So I have like a few different versions of like, I've got a low day of food, a medium day of food, a high day of food. I've got all my food sources. So right now, what things are looking like is like day by day, he's now giving me like, hey, this is your 4 days out plan. And from those templates of like meal plans that I'm using, he's making adjustments.
Okay.
So it's like, hey, we're going to run your low day, but I added some fats, which actually is very literally what has been happening the last couple days. So I guess technically a week out would have been on Saturday. So I guess started at peak week Saturday to Saturday. And Friday, Saturday, I had more food. So I had like my moderate day of food. And at that point already, cardio started coming down. So I was doing roughly about 50 minutes, give or take, like 5 times a week cardio.
Okay.
Sometimes I was doing a like hit list combo, which put me at about the 46-minute mark for that day. But so again, roughly 50 minutes or like 50 minutes list. And so that started coming down. And now the most I'm doing is like 20 minutes.
Okay.
So had some like higher food Friday, Saturday. Cardio went down to 20 minutes. Sunday, Monday, I had a low day of food, but with added fats. And, I had a rest day of cardio yesterday I didn't train, I didn't do cardio, I didn't pose yesterday, so rested the body. And then today, Tuesday, 20 minutes cardio, and food is ramping up. So I did those low days with more fats Sunday, Monday, and I just had 60 grams of oats, 32 grams of almond butter. I'm feeling pretty good.
You seem like you're feeling good. It is crazy when the cardio gets reduced, how much more time it feels like you have, almost to the point where you don't know what to do with your time. It's hard to
Yeah,
remember what you did when you had this much free time in the past.
yeah, and it's like 20 minutes just feels like a drop in the bucket. Like it's just
Hmm.
like kind of a little annoying thing I have to go do. It's like, oh yeah, that. It's whereas, when you're like 50 minutes of cardio, like I also need to warm up for it so that like I can kind of get my heart rate going. Like I'll usually do like 10 minutes on the treadmill, just like walking and moving. Because
Yeah,
I'm someone who like rolls out of bed and goes downstairs to do it. So like I kind of need to wake up a little bit. Um, but it's really funny, I think, when everyone's like, "Oh, like what's life gonna look like post show?" And I'm sure we'll like get into that as well. But everyone's like, "Oh, you must be so, you know, excited to like eat more." And it's like, actually, like getting my time back has just been like I would take time over food. I can't believe I'm even saying that, but that's just been the biggest thing is like how much time all of this takes. So that's just been the coolest thing. And it's really cool to be in a position in your peak week where you can start pulling things back because then I feel like I get to like enjoy peak week. I'm like, oh, this is like I have so much more time and like I can kind of relax. And the thing is you want to relax because something we talk about all the time on this podcast is, where the mind goes, the body will follow. So what you don't want during your peak week is to be like freaking out, stressing out, cortisol's high because like the body's going to look like it if you're stressed. So as of today, as I hope nothing changes, I'm feeling like very just like calm and like so grateful to have some more time back and like the weather's been great and like I get more food, so like life is pretty good. And then the other piece is like the training. So I had my last leg day on Sunday because again, we're trying to pull down inflammation and rest the body. So we don't need to be in the gym like sending it on leg day. And even, Sunday's leg day, my coaches were like, do not send it. Like you're good with like 1 to 2 to 3 RIR, like chill, So I kind of had to like I keep saying like keep the train on the tracks, but it is an ongoing struggle always. But like that felt really cool to like know that I had done my last leg day of prep. I'm like, yeah. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to. And then there is some more nitty gritty with some things that I think we'll probably get into with some of these questions.
for sure. Okay, I love that. Very well explained. It sounds like basically you guys continue to diet for a few days, but added in a bit of fat. We've been reducing stress load via training, cardio, both being pulled back. And then now we're starting to ramp food up.
Yeah, and I'll add to that what is common for a peak week is what you'll see a lot or hear a lot is like typically you'll take a body, a physique, and you'll deplete it. So you will continue to like dial back carbs and
Mhm.
think about like a raisin, basically. You're like kind of like dehydrating like this raisin, right? So that you can fill it back up and have it look the way that you want
Look like a
by
grape
yeah.
on stage.
Right, but that's what you're trying to do is you're trying to basically like deplete the body down so that then you load it via things like, the adjustments with like carbs, salt, water, electrolytes, like things like that and you fill it back up and you fill those glycogen stores in the muscles so that you can get the muscles to pop. And that's how you kind of like that's the magic of peak week is like how to like nail that look and achieve that look that will be competitive for your division's criteria. So that's kind of in a nutshell what the process is. It's kind of like depleting the body down so that you can fill it back up.
You kind of touched on this a little bit, but for the listeners, do you want to talk through like why, like what the difference would be lowering your cortisol, like as far as like how your physique presents and why that would be different in your case versus like a lifestyle cut?
Just in terms of like fatigue management, or
How that presents in your physique.
like what would happen if my cortisol were like jacked up?
Yeah.
So cortisol is a stress hormone, for those who might not know. And it's really normal to have like dysregulated cortisol. I mean, honestly, for most people in general these days, given our lives and society we live in, but you throw like an extreme diet on top of that, and you are going to be, at the mercy of your cortisol pretty much. So like, stress is very high. The body's stressed because it's under famine. It doesn't understand that like, no, we're not actually starving. Like we're going to survive this. We're just fine. And so what can happen is like you get this like raise in cortisol, your stress hormone. And how that will typically present in the body, it could be a few different ways, but typically what you'll see is like a really like watery kind of look. And you could see that like that is not something that you want on show day. Like that's not going to be your best look, right? So like those like so muscle definition and separation, like all those lines that you see in the body are going to be blurry, and they're going to fade, and you're not going to get like the muscle pop, and your body is like probably not going to respond to other things that you're doing. So I don't know if there's anything you want to add,
And
Andrea.
in this case, you're so lean that that makes a pretty big visual difference.
Yeah.
Whereas in like a lifestyle cut, we wouldn't really see any visual difference there.
Yeah, I think like the cool thing about bodybuilding, or like competitive bodybuilding, is you're pushing it so far that your body is so lean that like you can see some of these things and like actually see, like to Andrea's point, you can actually see the effect of pulling some of these levers. Whereas like if you have a little bit more body fat, it's not quite as obvious. It's not as big a deal. I mean, no one wants sky high cortisol in general, but like it's not gonna be as big a deal if like you're doing a lifestyle cut, let's say, like prior to a vacation.
Similarly, when it comes to the filling back out, filling muscle glycogen stores back out, the more muscle we have, the more pronounced that effect will be. A lot of individuals don't have a whole lot of muscle to where it would make sense to like, oh, I'm gonna go to the beach. Let's make sure we like carb you back up so that we're looking at which I respect the intention behind it, but
I
an
could see
important
Brandon DeCruz doing that for a beach trip. He's like, I'm gonna peak myself.
oh my God, we crush it. I don't- we did we run a peak for my wedding? No, I don't think we did actually.
We
Uh
joked about it though.
Shout out to our guy though.
Yeah.
I still wish he would have been there to like deliver a speech at 2x speed for my wedding. Would have been hilarious. How are you feeling energy wise through the day?
Energy has been really good, honestly. I like even in the last month or so, I honestly this entire prep energy has been fine. I've had some low days of energy, but they always turn around. I remember I went on vacation back in mid-July, and I was so wiped that whole week. And I think it was really, I mean, this was like that was like 2 months ago at this point, or a month and a half ago. And I was so worried. I was like, oh my gosh, this is the beginning of the end. Like I'm gonna feel like this now until like I'm just always, this is my everyday, this is my life now. I live here.
This is
But that was
permanent.
yeah, but that was actually not the case. Like I think it was really just because I went on vacation and I wasn't working, and I actually like allowed my body to like rest. And and you allow the mind to rest. And I think I had never really experienced that in a very long time. And I think that's what that was, because honestly, once I got back to work and my life here in DC, it just like picked back up, and I was like, oh, phew, okay. um but like in the last month, like honestly, I have not struggled with energy. There might be like or 2 days, but I feel really good. And I think now just like that the finish line is so close. And because we are like the work is done mentally, I am so much more at peace. And therefore so is my body. So but it's one of those things where like I'm sure post show, once I start like eating up and like resting, probably like a health phase or something like that, I think the disparity will reveal itself. And like a few months down the road, I'll be like, oh, actually, like I feel really good now. Like so
Hmm.
what I was feeling back in September actually wasn't great. But I think like relatively speaking and just where my mindset is, honestly, I like feel really good right now.
Has he given you a cap on caffeine or anything?
No, about a couple weeks ago, or maybe a week and a half ago, we standardized my fluid intake, which
Yeah.
does include caffeine. So we didn't specifically address caffeine, but that was included in my fluids. So, he started asking me like, "Hey, how much water are you drinking per day?" And like, I'm someone who doesn't measure my water normally. I know like I get in my minimum, which is like 140 ounces every single day. But there'll be like sips here, sips there of like, maybe I'll make a tea during the day. Like you all know I drink like a pot of decaf coffee like while I work in the morning, like legit an entire pot. Sometimes, and like sometimes I go to the gym, so I don't do that, so but like I've had to lock that down, and we settled on like 130 ounces of water every day, which is again like pretty easy for me. One can of Coke Zero, and I was getting a little sloppy. I would have a couple cans every now and again. I'd have my root beer zero in the afternoon, so I get one can of Coke Zero, and then we did put like an ounce on the coffees, but basically it's just standardized. So I'm someone who like if I have a slow morning, I really like a carafe of French press, kind of thing. And that's just like I don't want to wrap my brain around that. So what I'm doing is like two Nespresso pods because again, it's
Mhm.
so easy to quantify. Like that's it. Two Nespresso pods, and then my cold brew concentrate. He hasn't ripped that from my cold hands yet.
But you
Um,
don't feel like caffeine started to creep up throughout, like to keep your energy up?
no, I did. I would start like having my Coke Zero on the way to the gym because like
Mhm.
I've never done pre-workout. I have some and I took it like twice and I was like I don't get it. Like I don't feel anything. This doesn't taste good. I don't like it. And I'm not an energy drink person. Like from what I can tell, I don't really ever feel very affected by caffeine. But like when it comes to things like Coke Zero or coffee, like I just like the taste. Like I like the ritual. I like the taste of it, the habit. It's like all I have. So like
I get it.
and I would kind of start like pushing some of my gym sessions a little later because like as food would get low, it's like I'd always want to get a meal in before training because like I didn't have an intra anymore.
Mhm.
So I want to make sure I get a meal in. And then like if I had a dig day, sometimes I would like get 2 meals in sometimes and like push training even later just so I could have a bit more food on my stomach.
Mhm.
And because of my caffeine timing, like even before prep, like I always try to like stop my caffeine intake by like noon or 1. So like if I knew that I was going to finish training after that, it's like, oh, I like better get this in now kind of thing. And mentally I'm like, oh, the caffeine's like going to help my training session. I don't know, but I would just like sip on it on the way to the gym.
So one of the questions was, why do they remove diet drinks towards the end of prep? Have you done so, and why would they remove them?
Yeah, this question came up multiple times actually, because I posted a story saying like, "Oh, this is gonna go away soon," and I had a lot of people respond. They're like, "Why?" And then when I put up the question box, everyone was like, "Why'd you say that?" So it is a really good question. I'll also start by saying, actually, about a week and a half ago, when we were talking fluids, we went ahead and we pulled out my EAAs because I was doing an intro workout with like basically just EAAs and like electrolytes,
Hmm.
um, and we pulled that out. And the EAAs were due to the artificial sweeteners.
Okay.
So there is nothing inherently wrong with like artificial sweeteners or anything like that. Like it's totally cool to have a diet soda. You're fine. Probably don't need to have like a liter of it every single day, but the well placed like sugar-free this, diet this, totally fine under normal circumstances. But again, literally everything you're doing in a bodybuilding prep is to present your best physique. So what we see a lot with artificial sweeteners that come in things like diet sodas is that they really can kind of wreak havoc on digestion. And if your digestion's jacked up, your midline, so you're gonna have probably some abdominal distension, like kind of like a like watery, bloaty looking belly. And you like in all, there is not one division of bodybuilding where you want that. Like everyone wants like a tight waist and core. And so that's what you're working towards. So I'm not someone who struggles particularly with artificial this or that. But it's like it's an assurance policy. It's like why would you risk it sort of thing. And then when it comes to things like diet soda, there is a little bit of the carbonation element as well. Um, I asked him because I've been really because I enjoy my Coke Zero so much. So I did ask him. I was like, "Hey, like, am I still good with with the Coke Zero?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll stop that on Wednesday. So that's tomorrow." So I'm gonna pour one out today. Except I don't want
I'll,
to
pu-
waste. I don't want to waste any.
I'll pour one
Uh,
out daily for you.
Please. So yeah, today I guess will be my last one, and we haven't actually talked about it, but because I just happen to know, within my 130 ounces of water right now, I've been having a couple of like LaCroix, just soda waters. So I'm gonna stop that also just for the carbonation. Um, because again, it's one of those like why wouldn't I want to do everything in my power to bring my best look, right?
And it will slightly impact like the amount of bloat you have. I'm a huge Fresca guy. I think we're all huge Fresca fans here, correct?
Yes.
And if you are not drinking Fresca, you are fucking up, let me tell you. By far the best 0 calorie drink that's not caffeinated. But I noticed like if I have like a Fresca, or, like it's hard to just have one once you start, honestly. But if I have
Truly.
like a night where I have like two Frescas, again, it's not like this made me gain body fat, but weight will be a little bit higher, and for sure like you have a little bit more bloat because carbonation, it is very filling, so it can be like a good hack drinking carbonated drinks when you're dieting to feel a little bit more full for no calories. But again, like in this instance, when we don't want any abdominal distension, it makes sense to pull that.
And I would say like to the listeners out there, this is not to dissuade you from drinking, diet sodas because trust me, I'm going straight back to it like post shows. Like the first thing I'll want probably.
Everyone else has like their cookies and stuff, and you just have a diet and you have a Coke Zero.
Or like a liter, 2 liter bottle of Coke Zero. Um, but like, if you're someone who does drink diet soda, like just like take a moment to note how you feel next time. And again, that's not to say like, oh, if you feel a little bloat that you shouldn't drink this. Like, no, but just like take note. Because like I definitely know when I drink if I have like my 2 Coke Zeros and because I'll go into train after my Coke Zero these days, right? Like, yeah, I'm like my belly's a little more bloated. I don't, bloated feels like a very extreme word for like what it feels like, but I can feel a difference for sure.
Similarly, are you weighing salt right now?
Yes. Well, yes, and no. I'm not weighing it, but we settled on 1/8 of a teaspoon per meal.
Mhm.
Um, and this was about a week and a half ago when we were talking electrolytes and fluids and all of that. And he asked to, because you also don't want to like deviate so hard from like what you've been doing. So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm having all the salt, now I'm having nothing. So he asked like, how much salt would you say you're consuming? And I like am very liberal with salt. I think we all are actually because it's so good. Andrew, I remember you saying like your photo shoot prep, like you were just happy to have more salt back like after. And that's
Yeah.
like a bit where I am too, because like I have things in my plan like air fryer potatoes and like lots of like eggs and things. And like even like my oats and Greek yogurt, like I really like to add like sea salt to all of that because it adds flavor and it's so good. So I'm pretty liberal with the salt, but we settled on 1/8 of a teaspoon per meal. Um, and it's just like, I mean, it's just brainless at this point. So like I don't cook anything right now with salt. Whereas like before I would make my air fryer chicken, I'd add like some seasoning that had salt in it, And now it's like I don't, because I'm just like I want to control my controllables and my variables. Um, and then we're also using like a potassium salt, like new salt, NU salt. And I have an eighth of a teaspoon of that in meals 1 and 3. And so a
Okay.
lot of this, and then also every single morning I have 1 scoop of my Relight electrolytes. And before I was doing like a half scoop of Relight in the morning and then a full scoop with my intra. So I do a full scoop of Relight and like my EAAs and creatine. And now like that, now that has just become like 1 scoop of Relight in the morning. That's it. Plus my salt and potassium in my meals.
So we're talking a lot about your water intake being measured and being very intentional with water, sodium, potassium. So basically your electrolytes being very intentional with those as well. Why is that important? Just to explain to the listener, like why is that important for the look you bring to stage?
Because it's going to affect the amount of like water that you retain in your physique. So again, like the difference of you coming in tighter. So I guess you would say tight as in like, more like definition, lines, separation versus like that kind of like more blurry line, like kind of like watery look. So you want to control these variables because what we know, right, is that like salt helps you retain water, right? So if those things get out of whack, out of balance, you could be retaining more or less water than you need for your look. So you want to standardize this so that there's no guesswork. And so that also you have these tools available to you at your disposal. So you've got these levers you can pull because the body is, at the end of the day, like we can control all of these things, but the body is like a miraculous machine, right? It's going to do, like, to some extent, it's going to do what it's going to do. And so, especially like females, right? Like you hear stories about females getting their menstrual cycle like on show day or something like that. So, you've been controlling or like, hormones fluctuating, of course. So, if they're not tanked already, but but you've got all these different levers now that you can play. So it's like you wake up and let's say like sleep really suffers in the lead up to show, which honestly mine has because I'm so excited that like I can't sleep at this point. But like we all know what lack of sleep can do to a physique too. So it's like we have a theory. We have a great working theory, but no one can really predict how exactly I am going to show up on show day. And so things like salt and water can now become kind of a last ditch effort to like, cool, like let's pull the salt out, or like, or I do anticipate water being restricted on show day for sure, possibly the day before. And I think that's going to be really hard actually, because someone who's like constantly drinking something.
Are you struggling to hit your peak on show day? You said show day so many times and it just reminded me of
Today,
that.
I hope that I won't be for sure.
It has been really cool to see like our quote unquote peak that we did together for your photo shoot when we coached together, which wasn't nearly as in depth as what we're doing here, but it has been cool to see from a mindset perspective. You just seem happy and excited about this. Whereas when we did that, I remember after the first day being like, I made a mistake in making this complicated because I just stressed this girl out so much. And I could tell like just seemed like you were so in your head then. It's funny to see how much different you are now, like in this and how much better you're managing it. What do you think is different there? And just as a whole, fill us in on how you're doing mentally.
um my photo shoot 3 years ago, I was like, you never even suggested it. I think I was like, hey, should I do a photo shoot or something? Because like I didn't want to, like I just wanted to keep pushing it because I'm like, I'm not lean enough. I'm not lean
Yeah, our
enough. I
plan
want
was just to get you a little leaner and then do a building phase, which we never got to do, but
I know one day. But I was just like, I think I posited to you, I said, like, is this something I should consider? Should I just do a photo shoot? And you were like, yeah, like, sure, we can do that. I was like, okay. Like, and so we kind of started going down that road. And I was like, not, I was just so hyped for the process. Like, I just loved what we were doing so much that I was like, this is great. This is fun. And like, it is like helpful when pushing to have that goal post, you know, like that thing that you're working towards. So that was kind of like that North Star sort of thing. Like, this is where we're headed. But then as it got closer, I didn't feel ready, which was so interesting because like I did see some shades of that this prep. And we can talk about that, but like I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel lean enough. I definitely, it's interesting because I do come from like a dance, gymnastics, like music background. So the idea of like being on stage and performing is not weird for me. However, there's something that feels very different about like static pictures. You know what I mean? Because like it's one thing when you're like dancing, because it's movement. It feels like performance, you know? It's another when you're like posing and you're just like stood there with like a dumbbell in your hand, like, okay. And I felt so uncomfortable with that whole process. And like I had to do my shoot at night, which is like, I mean, you do what you need to do, but like not ideal.
Not
It
ideal.
was like a Sunday night at like 7 o'clock or something like that. Oh God. Um, which I'm getting ready to do again, by the way, in a couple weeks, but um, but I just like, and I think I like didn't know what to expect from a photo shoot. And that's, the funny thing is I had done photo shoots before. Like I did one in Philly when I started my nutrition business, but it was more like an active sporty, like we were like going around town, like taking fun photos in front of like murals and, you know, things like that. And this was like in a gym where like I was just like trying to pose, and ultimately like I was so unhappy with the result, not of our work but of the photos, because I just didn't feel like they showcased what I'd worked so hard for. Like I just didn't feel like it showcased my physique, and I'm just like, what was the point of this? You know, like I felt so uncomfortable, like I feel like I have nothing to show for this, like I just like hated the experience. And I remember the lead up that peak week too, just like not knowing what to expect in terms of like what my body was going to do, what this was going to feel like, what this was going to be like. And like I was just so like kind of just like mentally down on the event itself. Like I was kind of like I was dreading it. You know, I was like fearing it. I was like, okay, like T-3 days, like, ugh. Like I got this like this is like this thing that I like committed to, you know? And I know we did a podcast episode a while back about like, you know, when I was starting prep or something like that, where I was talking through like how a lot of this for me is really like redemption, where I know I'm going to enjoy the process because I love learning and I love pushing myself. Like, so I know I'm going to enjoy this whole process, but one of my biggest goals is like, but I want to enjoy the entire thing. Like, I want to have fun. I want to enjoy actual show day and not have show day be this thing that like just this thing that like I is part of the process that I kind of like have to do. It's like, no, we're gonna like embrace this entire process because I recognize that it was my own, you know, mental limitations. Like it's my fault I didn't enjoy that photo shoot. It's no one else's fault. It's my fault. And I wanted to own that and improve. And I had a period of time a few weeks ago where maybe less than a few weeks ago where like I wasn't feeling ready for this show. I was like, I'm not going to come in like on time. Like it's like I'm not ready. I'm like too far out. Like I'm not conditioned. Like we haven't nailed this. Like we should start earlier. We should go longer. We should push the show back. I was going through all of that, and I realized at that point that that was that was my challenge. Like that was the challenge that I needed to overcome, is like being right back in that position. I was like, oh, that's why, hello, old friend. Like, that's why this is so familiar. And then when I realized that this became something I had to overcome, that's when I like worked at through it. Cause I'm like, I love overcoming challenges. I was like, oh, I get it. I'm being tested. No, I'm gonna crush this. So I had to do like a lot of like deeper work and mental gymnastics. And something that has really helped me was I was so like fixated. I didn't realize this, but I was so fixated on how I didn't want to feel on show day. Like I was I was so consumed with like I don't want to hate this. Oh my God. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm not ready. I don't want to feel miserable. Like I'm going to shake. I'm going to like, that's what I was hyper fixated on. And I was like, what if I reframe this and I start thinking more about like, how do you want to feel on show day? Like, what is it that you do want to feel and experience? And I started thinking more about that. It's like, no, like, I want to have fun. I want to feel confident. I know I'm going to be nervous. That's okay. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not going to be nervous. I think that would be a mistake because then it'll be surprising. It's like, why am I shaking? So I am anticipating nerves, but like, that also means I care, and I do. So, like, I want to feel happy and excited. And, you know, at the end of the day, like, I've done my part. There's nothing left for me to do. So, like, I might as well make this as fun of an experience as possible. So, long story short, mentally, I'm doing really well, actually. And I'm not married and it's not really like looking good at this point. So this feels like wedding week to me. Like it really does feel like that.
So much to unpack there.
Yeah.
No, but it has been really cool to see, and it was interesting to see a couple weeks ago, as you said. I could kind of see the same where you were doubting yourself a lot more, struggling a little bit more, but also has been so cool to see how quickly you were able to snap yourself out of it. I'm frustrated in those situations because it's hard to talk logically with you. It's like, dude, no, you look great. Look at these changes. But I respect it at the same time. I
I
know it was something I was just like, I think it's just something she has to work through herself. And I was very confident you would, and you worked through it very quickly.
The funny thing is though is that I didn't feel emotional about it.
Hmm.
Like I felt very objective because the thing like I'm very at peace with like my body, my relationship with food, my relationship with myself. Like I'm not really struggling there right now. Done a lot of work so that's the case, but the cool thing about bodybuilding is like there is a set criteria.
Right.
So I was looking at my physique I'm sure, no one can be 100% objective with themselves, but I felt like I was being fairly objective, where I was like, no, 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 like my glutes aren't tight enough. Like I'm not ready. Like, look at this. This is not me judging my physique in terms of like good or bad, like, or worthy or unworthy. It's not about that. I'm looking at the criteria and I'm not there. But the other part of that conversation is like, but you're not supposed to be there. You're supposed to be there on show day. You're not supposed to be there 4 weeks out. I mean, yes, you hear a lot of talk about like people coming in early for sure and like reversing into shows and things like that. And yeah, like that's a strategy and like that happens. And at the end of the day, you always do like what's needed to get the job done. But I kind of had to keep talking to myself. I'm like, you're not supposed to be ready right now. Like you've got time. And like true to form, there have been some crazy changes in the last like 2 weeks. Like and I was really kind of struggling with this about 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, even like 2 weeks ago to some extent. But really at that 2 week mark, like things just it's like the the train was like going down the hill at that point. Like the snowball just started and like, that's when the crazy changes started to come in, which is really cool.
I see a lot with photo shoot prep, and I have the same conversation with clients quite frequently around people comparing themselves. We're still 4 or 5 weeks out, and it's like, well, this client, like they'll send over like another client's photo shoot pictures, and it's yeah, but there's like you still have a month to go, like
Right.
so much, especially when we're extremely lean. Like you losing, if we lose 4 pounds of fat, if we just lose a pound of fat a week, that's a significant change in how your physique will look. So understanding again in that photo shoot day or like on show day versus even 2, 3 weeks away, we can see some pretty significant changes is very important.
Yeah, like a pound of like for me to drop a pound at this point is a significant change in look.
Oh yeah. So talk us through how, this was another listener question. How do you maintain a good relationship with food whilst also being super adherent and or dieting? And while you start that, I'm gonna pee, but continue.
Can you get me a cold brew while you're there? Thanks. Um, this I did answer on my Q&As, but I think the best way to sum it up is by not dieting for a long time.
Yeah.
And also doing this for so long. Like doing the phases of nutrition, like working through the maintenances, the builds, the cuts, for years, honestly. Um, 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to say that. Like, I wouldn't be able to say it's in a good place. But, like we started out the podcast talking about, like, I haven't really done a serious diet in 3 years. And it's helped having this show to work towards, like this North Star, this like thing that I'm working toward, because I knew that, like, I knew this was coming. So I've been like preparing for this mentally for a long time. Like, and very, as a result, like my builds prior to starting prep, I was really intentional about like gratitudes, and like practicing gratitude for like, I'm so happy to be where I am right now in like this life of abundance where like I can be flexible if I need to with food. Like, I really never abused flexibility within my building phases, but I was just very aware and cognizant at the time that like life is really good right now. Like, I have permission to eat from myself and from my coach. I have permission to eat more and like live out of scarcity and live in abundance. I have permission from myself and my coach to put on body fat because I'm building right now. So I'm going to do what I need to do to get the job done. So just like giving myself that permission and ultimately knowing that what we were working toward is a more restrictive season of life. Like, hey, that'll come. Like, we don't need to restrict right now. That will come. So I like, in my mind, I've been like teeing up prep for a couple of years now. Like, I know what this is going to take, and I know it's ready. Like, I know what is, required. And so I'm just going to like really enjoy my current seasons of life not dieting. And so that way when you kind of get to prep, you're like, yeah, I'm well fed. Like, I'm not starting prep in this period of scarcity. Um, and then, as a result, I've also been like conditioning myself mentally. Like, basically, once I started prep, I started conditioning myself mentally for the reverse. So that's something I've already spent significant time thinking about, as well as like the other side of this when, the seasons inevitably, as they do, change. And we kind of have to shift more into like, still a little bit of a restrictive mindset for a reverse. But like, this is what I love about the nutritional phases so much, and like kind of planning these things out, according to your calendar and your life and what makes sense, is like you do have time to mentally prepare and get hype for that next phase. And this is something I stress with my clients, and I know you guys do too, is really focusing on the pros of each season of life, each phase of nutrition, season of life, whatever you want to call it. But like, hey, what are the pros of like prep right now? It's like, hey, you got to look like really shreddy and cool, and this is fun. But like, hey, what are the pros of building? More flexibility, like more life gains, better relationships nurtured. So
With the relationship with food, someone living in a place of scarcity, and it doesn't even necessarily mean we're actually nailing a deficit, but typically just the intention of dieting for so long is almost always where I see people struggling. And that, as you mentioned, is where the phases are so helpful. When we spend plenty of time eating more food at maintenance, when you spent like a couple years dieting, I felt the same way going to my most recent diet, where it was a good 2.5 years since I had actually really truly dieted. Like, it'd been since 2022. I was excited for it. I wasn't like, oh no, I can't wait to not, or I'm so dreading not being able to eat this and this. It was just, I'm excited for it. I've been well fed for so long. I'm a little too well fed right now. Like, I'm ready for it. But that's so important. I think for most people who struggle with that is, a lot of people who struggle with this also want a better relationship with it, but don't want to stop dieting or stop trying to diet, or are afraid of like letting go of just trying to be their leanest. And I think it's really hard to get there if you're not willing to.
I think there are a lot of people that listen to us and a lot of people in our space and I understand because I used to be there too, who like are not dieting, but they are at that point where they haven't quite made this a lifestyle. So they
Hmm.
haven't quite figured out how this is a lifestyle. And so thus they are still feeling an element of restriction. So, again, like calories aren't suppressed. Like we're still on a good amount of food. Like we're not experiencing negative adaptations in biofeedback metabolism or like anything of the sort, but you still just feel like caged, like in this box and prison of like I can't have what I want. I can't go out to eat. I can't, and those things just like haven't clicked yet. And those are really valuable and important things to work through it so that you can have a good quality of life, number one. But number two, ahead of any diet, prep or not, like you're going to have a better outcome if you're not starting from that place of scarcity, of like, oh, I'm doing this because like I just hate what I see in the mirror. I hate what I feel. And like, I have a really crappy relationship with food and like I feel so restricted already and like I haven't quite figured this out, but like I just gotta white knuckle this diet so I can get the look that I want. And like that's a mistake. And maybe something we talk through on a later podcast or something like that is like who should or should not prep for a photo shoot or for a physique competition. And it's like if this is you and you have not sorted some of this out, which is so many people and was me at one point too, you're not ready for something like this, I would say.
I really like that. The intention and having your intention set behind it, I always find so helpful going into a fat loss phase. Like, okay, how am I going to manage this? Like, what's the standard I want to hold myself to? Why is that important? And just allows the whole phase to go so much better. So, another listener question: where do you think you would land body wise after reversing? And how does building look after you've gone through a prep season versus just starting out? Kind of a couple different questions there.
Yeah, this was a really good question from my client Angela. Shout out to her. Awesome, awesome, jacked, ripped lady. Um, but it's funny. I told her I'm going to do everything in my power to execute my reverse with the precision and intensity that I did my prep. I'm gonna take it seriously, and past that, like I don't care. And I don't mean to sound so like blasé or nonchalant about it, but I trust my coach. I trust myself to execute. I trust my coach and his plan. I know reversing is hard, so I don't mean to make it sound so like robotic and mechanical because like reverses are really not usually that mechanical or robotic. Like there is some gray area there that people tend to struggle with. But like I'm gonna do my best, of course, but we're gonna get labs for sure. Like, I'm gonna have to restore some things. Like I did end up losing my menstrual cycle only for a month though, which honestly kind of proud. Because that was different from my last diet. Um, so I've missed one cycle so far. So like we're gonna have to get that back. Now, caveat, I'm 42 years old, so that's gonna be on borrowed time anyway, a whole other discussion. But there are some indications that I'm gonna have to tend to my health. Thyroid is gonna have to be restored, bring that back. So like there's gonna be some like health phase stuff. And I know from doing this long enough with myself and with clients that health is number one. It has to be. And if I ever want to step on stage again, and not just that, but like be in a good place body composition wise, continue to work on building muscle and like living in a lean, strong, healthy body, I'm going to have to restore some health. So I'm going to do whatever is necessary to do that. Likely what will happen is I will have to put on body fat. That's fine. I'm at peace with that. I'm not going to say it's going to be like easy and fun to like watch the shreds go away, but I accept the terms. Like I understand that this is what's needed. I also know that I'll likely feel a hell of a lot better. Like my joints have been suffering a little bit and my training will go back to feeling so much better. So like again, those like life gains things. So long story short, I will do what is needed to zoom out and look at the much longer term process of like I want to continue living this life. I want to continue building muscle and making improvements to my physique. And I know that a healthy body is a responsive body. So that's stop number one. I don't in my mind, I'm trying not to think any specifics in terms of like, well, like my goal is to only put on 15 pounds. I think that's a mistake because this is going to look very different for everyone. Some people can live in a leaner body on lower body fat percentages. They don't lose their menstrual cycle. Thyroid is still like rocking and rolling. Yeah, there are genetic components to this. So it's going to look different for everyone, but I don't have a number. I do now have like a floor and a ceiling, in terms of like, I knew that I needed to get down to about where I am right now for stage. I knew that. And that's been about a 30-pound loss. If I choose to compete again, I'd be stoked not to have to lose 30 pounds again to do it. I don't want to have to lose more than 30 pounds. I think like those 40-pound preps or when you start to like, that's rough. Like, that's rough. 30 pounds was like pretty manageable, quite frankly. But I'm also at the point, like, muscle density wise, where like I'd have to gain a little bit more fat to get the muscle that I need. As you move up the ranks, so you look at like professional level bodybuilders, they can live much leaner in their off seasons. They still put on put on body fat to grow, but like those are the people that are not having to gain 20 pounds in their off season, 30 pounds in their off season. I'm not a professional bodybuilder, like very much amateur. So if my coach, because we will do subsequent building phases for sure. So I'm just going to let him take the lead. And like, I also now have data and a track record. Like, hey, I know what I look like, or at least what I looked like last time when the scale hit 157. And I also know what I look like right now when the scale is roughly about 126. I know what those things look and feel like. I'm going to be somewhere probably in between. And even if I get up to like 160, I also trust myself and my body that it's like nothing is permanent, nothing's forever. Like it's just a chapter in the story. So at some point, weight is going to have to creep up if I want to continue to productively build muscle. And I'm at peace with that. But I also know that I can turn it around 2 years later, do a prep, and be right back here.
I think the more time you work through the phases, the more you start to realize that fat loss is actually kind of the easiest part.
Yeah.
And the idea of potentially gaining body fat gets a lot less scary. I know after my first photo shoot prep, I was terrified to gain body fat back because I'd never seen myself look like that. And what if I couldn't get back there? And just the more time you work through all these phases, the more you see how it supports our body just constantly improving. And again, we get so much better at the skill of dieting. You can really just let go of that fear.
Yeah, I think the people who struggle with this the most are the ones who like enter a photo shoot or a contest prep with the goal of looking a certain way. Like this is the look I want.
Mhm.
And if that is that one thing that you are chasing, I think you're likely going to be that person that struggles on the other side of that when it starts to go away. And like that conversation about needing to gain some body fat in order to keep growing muscle productively. Like, but again, when like I'm not doing this because that's what I want to like look like in my walking around body. I mean, that'd be sick, actually. Like that'd
Would
be
be.
so cool. Like I'm not gonna lie, if I could just like walk around looking like an action figure like every day for the rest of my life, 100% I would do that. But I also just understand that's not the point, and that's not possible, and that's not why I'm doing this.
I love it. Any of these last questions that you wanted to dig into? I think we answered most of these.
Oh, what's the best piece? Hey, I'm not answering that. I'm
Best
out of
piece of relationship advice Jeremiah and Andrea have given you? Oh, that's cool. Somebody asked that.
No one asked that. um, I think we talked through like so much of this. I know someone asked me like what have your calories looked like for this? And that's a long answer, so I'm not gonna fully get into it. But what I will say is like the plan has changed. I mean, like y'all remember when I started prep in May, things were changing like weekly. Like calories were actually really pretty high, quite frankly. And like he made a big pull at first, and like we just like kept it moving and like gave it like late 2 or 3 weeks, brought in calorie cycling. So I had like low days and high days. And then at some point, those high days were taken down to like more moderate days, so they weren't quite as high. And then towards the end, we did implement some dig days. So then I had like dig, low, medium. So you could really just dumb that down to like low, medium, high days, basically. And have just been cycling that. We locked in a meal plan um uh, like a month and a half or so ago. Like, so one thing that I really like, and I wouldn't necessarily do this with everyone. It depends on the client. It depends on what they're working toward. But one thing I really liked is that I did macros for the first part of my prep, whereas like he didn't talk to me at all about food selection. However, I had also like proven over time working with him, and like I do this for a living also, that I am responsible with my choices. So like I was basically on my own meal plan, but I was very strategic at rotating my foods, because I know that like as you get deeper into prep, things can really start to go, like digestion, and health for sure. So I was really intentional about like, oh, this is a higher carb day. I'm gonna have like pineapple today for some different micros. Whereas like on my lower days, I'm gonna keep it strawberries so I can have a little bit more volume. So like I designed my own meal plan basically, and was really strategically rotating food sources like from a health and micronutrient perspective. And I'm actually incredibly proud of how I managed that. And I also didn't have anything hyperpalatable. So there was no point that I was doing some Ninja Creamies, but like not the crazy recipes. It was just like a scoop of protein powder and like cashew milk or almond milk or something like that. So like I didn't do any flexible dieting at all. At all. I have not been out to eat since April. Not once. Even like every coffee that I've gotten out in prep has not had a splash of almond milk, because it has not had anything I couldn't measure myself. So I would like just go get a black cold brew. And if I really wanted to, I'd like bring it home and I'd like measure out my own like almond milk to put in there. But like there has not been one thing in my body that has been unaccounted for. I have not been flexible. I haven't been out to eat. There's been no macro Tetris. And then we shifted gears to like locking, and it's same thing like we talked through with the fluid intake and the salt and potassium and everything. We locked down a meal plan like a month or so ago where he asked me like, what have you been eating? And so it was very easy for me to just send him screenshots, because like I was eating the same thing pretty much. And so we just he kept everything I'd been eating and like refined a couple things, because I had like it's like some little measurements here and there, I don't know what a good example is, but like I had like a little bit of goat cheese, like in my dinner consistently every night. It was like 28 grams of goat cheese. It's like he pulled that out and like just made it like olive oil, so just like stripped it down and simplified it a bit, just for consistency, like accuracy, um, but yeah.
And I think that from the measurement side of things, it is easy to hear that and think like, oh wow, like that's a lot, like you haven't eaten out for 4 months. But ultimately, I think it's important to paint a realistic picture of to get to this level of shredded, what it takes. And yes, you could have lost body fat and still have meals out. Could you have done it to this extent? No, you wouldn't have gotten as ripped as you are now, especially when you're already very lean, trying to get just absolutely shredded. There's just so little room for error that every little detail there does make a big difference. So I think that's just very important to be realistic about.
Like also like the in my mind, maybe not for everyone, but like, and I think you guys probably would feel similarly, the worst feeling in the world would be like stepping on stage and like maybe your conditioning missed the mark and you're not, so by that I mean like you're not lean enough, and the judges come back and they're like, yo, like tighten it up, like you're not, like conditioning isn't there. And then in your mind you're like, I wonder what I could have looked like if I had a little less flexibility. Like that is a horrible feeling I don't want. So I'm very much like the question, how are you doing mentally? Like I'm very much at peace right now that I have done literally everything in my power to the best of my ability. Like I've done everything my coach asked of me. I've done it with a smile. I'm incredibly proud of my work. So I've controlled my controllables. So whatever the judges' feedback is, whatever the outcome of the show is, I like I'm already at peace with it, because even if the judges come back and they say like, hey, like I'm sure they're gonna say like you need more density, because like that's very common feedback for like anyone, but like amateurs, everyone's gonna be like, you need more muscle mass. It's like, well, yeah, we all need more size, right? But like whatever that feedback is, I will like there's nothing that they could say to me that it's like, oh, I should have done this differently. Like, no, I did what I needed to do. So like now it's back to the drawing board to like add more size, or like, okay, now I know that they do want me to come in tighter next time, or whatever.
It's a very good kind of summary for why the same reason we talk about coaches doing a photo shoot if you've never done something like that before. It's such a great vessel for your own growth. Is it's not like for you, it doesn't really sound like it's about the outcome at this point. I had very similarly, like my first photo shoot, man, I was so flexible. I remember like I was way younger at the time, but I was like out at the bars like a week before and like, dude, I definitely wasn't nailing my food. And going into the photo shoot that I did with Brandon, it was like, okay, I never feel like I can say I've truly like nailed the diet for the entirety of it. I want to actually look back on this and know like I didn't miss a single thing in like my food, my cardio, etc. And do I live like that all the time? No, but I grew so much and just my confidence in myself and like my confidence in my feeling good about actually being able to hold clients to a high standard because I had actually done it myself. And I just think that does so much for your confidence, your self belief, even like just outside of coaching, just like your ability to follow through on things that are really hard at times. Again, and it becomes a lot less about the outcome at that point. But it's just, especially if you're a coach, like pushing yourself to a higher level like that, just is so great for you. Any final thoughts from either of y'all before we wrap this up? Cool. Well, we are super excited for you, dude. You have crushed this process. I would expect no less. I love your suit. Very well done. That is honestly so dope.
I love it so much.
This comes out to be tomorrow, right?
Yes,
Oh
it will.
yeah.
This will
Yeah.
come out on Friday. Your show will be Saturday. So, wish
Stay
Natalie
tuned
good
to the
luck when you hear this.
socials.
I am so stoked to see you guys like a little over a week from today as well for your second show. And you'll be even more jacked and shredded by then. But in the meantime, if you enjoy the show, do us a huge favor. Leave us a 5-star rating and review. If you would like to apply for coaching, hit the link in the show notes, and we will catch you guys next time.